The night I finally looked him in the eyes, I didn't plan to say anything. I wasn't preparing for confrontation. I wasn't rehearsing words in my head. I wasn't even expecting the moment to matter. But something had already changed inside me long before that night arrived. For years, I had mastered a very specific kind of survival. The kind where you stay present but unseen. Where you listen more than you speak. Where you sense the temperature of a room before offering any part of yourself. I knew how to lower my gaze at the right moments. How to smile when silence was expected. How to nod just enough to keep things moving. And most importantly, I knew when not to look directly at him. Avoiding eye contact wasn't fear, at least not the kind people talk about openly. It was instinct. A quiet understanding that meeting his eyes meant inviting something I wasn't ready to deal with. When you look someone in the eyes, you're no longer hiding. You're no longer blending in. You're no longer agreeing without words. So I didn't. Over time, it became automatic. My gaze would drift away during certain conversations. I would focus on the table, my hands, the space just past his shoulder. Anywhere but directly at him. It kept things smooth, predictable, and that predictability became the foundation of our dynamic. He spoke with confidence. I listened. He assumed. I adjusted. He decided. I absorbed. From the outside, it probably looked like peace. Inside, it felt like disappearance. I told myself it wasn't that serious, that eye contact didn't mean anything, that I was reading too much into something small. But small things add up when they're repeated for years. Every time I looked away, I was confirming something without ever saying it out loud. I was confirming that his comfort mattered more than my presence. That it was easier for me to retreat than to stand fully where I was. And he grew comfortable with that version of me. The night everything changed didn't begin with tension. It began like countless nights before it. Familiar setting, familiar tone, familiar assumptions layered quietly into the conversation. He was talking about something he had already decided, something that affected me, something that would shape what came next. I listened. Out of habit, my eyes dropped. But then something stopped me, not fear, not anger, awareness. I realized I was tired of not being fully there, tired of shrinking myself in ways that were invisible but deeply felt, tired of participating in a dynamic where my silence did most of the work. And without thinking about it, without planning or bracing myself, I did something I had avoided for years. I looked up. I met his eyes. The shift was immediate. It wasn't dramatic. He didn't stop talking right away. But something changed in the space between us. The energy tightened. The room felt smaller, sharper. I didn't say anything. I just stayed there. Looking at him, for the first time, I wasn't trying to disappear. He noticed. His words slowed. His expression shifted slightly, as if he sensed something unfamiliar but couldn't name it yet. What? He asked. The question wasn't aggressive. It wasn't kind either. It was reflexive, the kind of question someone asks when a pattern breaks. I took a breath. I don't agree, I said. The words felt steady, not rehearsed, not emotional. Just true. He blinked, surprised. For a moment, he smiled faintly, as if he expected me to look away again, to soften, to retreat. I didn't. I don't agree, I repeated. And I haven't for a long time. The silence that followed was different from any silence we'd shared before. It wasn't comfortable. It wasn't familiar. It wasn't something either of us knew how to fill. He tried to respond the way he always did, by explaining, reframing, minimizing. He told me why it made sense. Why it wasn't a big deal. Why I was probably overthinking things. I listened carefully, and I held his gaze the entire time. That was the hardest part, not because I felt weak, but because I felt present. When he finished, I said, I understand what you're saying, but my answer is no. No apology, no justification, no retreat. Just eye contact. That was the moment everything shifted. He wasn't used to resistance that didn't flinch. He wasn't used to being seen while being challenged. He expected discomfort to make me look away. I didn't. For a brief second, I saw something in his expression I hadn't seen before. Uncertainty. The conversation ended shortly after that. Not with resolution, not with closure. Just a quiet tension that lingered in the air long after we stopped speaking. Later that night, when I was alone, my body reacted before my mind could catch up. My heart raced. My hands shook. Doubt crept in fast. Had I done too much? Had I crossed an invisible line? Would things ever feel the same again? These questions were familiar. They had followed every moment where I came close to speaking up, but something was different this time. I wasn't replaying the moment to find my mistakes. I was replaying it to remember how it felt to stay. The days that followed confirmed what I already knew. He tested the shift, subtly, casually, the way people do when they're trying to see if something was a fluke. It wasn't. Each time we spoke, I stayed present. I didn't drop my gaze. I didn't rush to smooth things over. I didn't preemptively shrink. I didn't argue. I simply existed fully in the space I occupied, and that changed everything. The power in our dynamic had never been about volume or authority. It had been about who was willing to remain visible. For years, I hadn't been. Now, I was. I noticed changes in myself first. I felt grounded in conversations instead of braced. I stopped rehearsing words before speaking. I trusted silence instead of fearing it. I didn't feel aggressive. I felt solid. Not everyone reacted well. Some moments felt tense. Some interactions felt colder. But for the first time, I wasn't measuring my worth by how comfortable I made others. I was measuring it by how honest I was with myself. If you're watching this and you've spent years avoiding eye contact, avoiding truth, avoiding presence because it felt safer know this, looking someone in the eyes isn't about dominance. It's about refusal to disappear. The night I finally looked him in the eyes wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. But it marked the end of something I would never return to. I didn't need to raise my voice. I just needed to stay. And once I did, everything changed.